Okay, well, according to my time, it's time to begin. So we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, just to make sure you're in the right session, you are in preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The UF/IFAS extension response during Hurricane Dorian. And our presenters today are Dr. Angie B. Lindsey. Angie is an assistant professor in the Department of Family and Youth and Community Sciences, working with the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, Center for the Public Issues Education in Agriculture and Natural Resources. Angie currently serves as the point of contact for the Extension Disaster Education Network for UF/IFAS. Her research focuses on disaster preparedness and recovery within communities, looking at crisis communication efforts before, during, and after disasters. Joining her today is Alena Poulin. Alena is a marketing assistant with the Public Issues Education Center at the University of Florida. She's a program director for the UF/IFAS Florida Extension Disaster Education Network. Alena also provides support on various projects for the PI Center, assisting with graphic design, event planning, and content creation. So welcome.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And I promise you we did not mean to completely give you all UF acronyms that you had to pronounce like that. So I apologize for all of our many acronyms.
I want to work at the PI Center too.
PI Center's great. Everybody wants to work at the PI Center, so absolutely. And we do actually have pie every once in a while, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So, well, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming here at the last section on the first day before the reception at 5 o'clock. So I appreciate you joining us today. So I would also, before I get into my presentation today, before I get into my presentation today, I also want to make sure that Alena, Libby, Charlie, and Brooke, I'm also including you, who are some of my Florida folks that also lived through this with us. If y'all have anything to chime in and to respond to or to give your feedback, please do so. Just please be sure that you provide some information if y'all have some as well, because y'all went through this with us also. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about basically preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, and some of our response efforts during Hurricane Dorian last year. And so just to give you a little background, Florida had 4 storms in 4 years after we had come through a kind of a blue skies period. We'd had some minor hurricanes and tropical storms since 2005, but nothing like we have seen in 2017 and 2018. We had Hermine, sorry, I always pronounce that wrong. 2016, Hurricane Matthew in 2016, and then of course we had Irma, which devastated most of our state actually. 6.7 million Florida homes without power, caused an estimated $6 billion in costs, making it one of the most expensive disasters in the country. Of the 67 counties in Florida, I think 52 of them actually were declared a disaster. So it greatly impacted the majority of our state. A year later, we had Michael, and I'll go into a little bit more detail with these. 4th strongest hurricane to make landfall in the contiguous United States, and the first Category 5 on record to impact the Florida Panhandle. So the impacts of Irma and Michael, especially a year apart like that, continues to be felt today and in some areas of Florida. So I want to talk a little bit about our response efforts after Irma and Michael to kind of set the stage of how we use some of these efforts in getting prepared for Dorian. So a little bit more about Irma. That is actually our extension. It was our extension office. It's beautiful now. It was our extension office in Collier County, Florida. So Irma made landfall twice. Once in the Hurricane Keys as a Category 4, and second was in Marco Island as a Category 3. Wind speeds were 120 to 142. Second most powerful storm in velocity and duration. Hurricane winds covered 800 miles. She was big. Tropical storm winds covered 400 miles. This is a huge storm. 32 of Florida's rivers and creeks flooded, 18 tornadoes, 7,000 shelters, 54 counties ordered evacuation orders with 67 or 6.7 million without power, 84 related deaths, and 60 billion in cost as well. So we do have tornadoes as well. Ours are just usually come with hurricanes or tropical storms. So just some of the pictures from the impact. These are citrus groves, obviously lots of citrus on the ground that we worked tirelessly to get up off the ground as quickly as possible. Our extension offices act as donation drop-off points, pods, points of distribution. Many of our extension offices were those for FEMA. And again, this is another picture of our extension office as well. So just some of those efforts, tried to provide as much information as possible, and this is pre-storm and post-storm, as much information as we could get out there, especially during pre-storm. We were trying to, anything that the faculty and staff out in the communities emailed us and said, hey, I need this. I was using the Eden resource page constantly, because if it was something that we didn't have or wasn't something recently, we pulled it from one of our Eden partners. Texas was fantastic. Texas A&M was great in helping us out because they had just been through Harvey. So a lot of their flooding resources we were trying to use as well. As much information as possible. A lot of our agents and a lot of our counties serve in the emergency operations centers within their counties, working the ESF. For us in Florida, it's ES-17, the emergency support function there, but also other support functions within the EOCs as well. Myself, I work with the ESF-17, which is working with the animal and agricultural emergency support function for the state of Florida. Daily phone calls with our IFAS leadership team. So with our extension team, we had 8 a.m. phone calls every morning, Saturday, Sunday included. We talk with them every morning. We were trying to meet the needs and infos and supplies of the various county extension offices, especially those that were greatly impacted, which was really tough because trying to travel during this time, especially right after the storm, was difficult. And then providing support for county faculty and communities. One of the things that we did for communication purposes was the development of GroupMe text for extension family, and I personally was glued to that thing constantly to try and determine what folks needed, what was going on, what were the needs in these particular areas, needs gaps forms for the areas, and then after the storm doing some ag and natural resources assessments and reporting as well, that we had to turn them back into the state. So a little over a year later, we had Hurricane Michael. October 10th, 2018, came in at Mexico Beach, just east of Panama City. Maximum sustained winds of 160, strongest hurricane on record, fourth most powerful, upgraded to a Category 5 several months later after the storm, because it literally broke the weather gauge at the air station that's in Pensacola. 43 deaths. I believe they actually had more than that as well. So, you know, I don't like to say, but one of the things that I say in thinking about Irma and Michael, I think for me, and I think also for a lot of the leadership with Hurricane Irma, we learned that we needed to check on our own people. There was several times after the storm where we had leadership calls, and Dr. Place would say, everybody is okay. Does everybody know that folks within their district or folks within their county are okay? And sometimes you heard, well, I didn't have a cell phone number for so-and-so, or I didn't know so-and-so, we're not sure if they evacuated or not. And, you know, Dr. Place said, that's unacceptable. Our people are our number one priority. We need to make sure that our people are okay. So I think that was one of the biggest things that we learned after Irma, to make sure that take care of our own people. So with Michael, personally impacted over 84 faculty and staff from their families across 11 county extension offices. We had some folks that lost their homes. We have some folks that are still not within their homes after Hurricane Michael. So including 2 research education centers, we had representatives at the ES-17 Incident Command Post for a week. They assisted with the State Agricultural Response, or SART, distribution. 4 of our county offices served as distribution points for SART. Several of our county offices were again used for points of distribution for FEMA. Several of our county offices were also set up as the FEMA sites and the DRCs also. We did agricultural assessments, and then we worked really closely with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and other partners to meet gaps and needs within this area. So I say that with Michael, with Irma, we learned that what do we need to do to take care, to get in touch with our people? What's the communication? How best do we get in touch with our folks to know that they're okay? So I think with Michael, we learned, what do we need to do to help our people when our people are severely impacted like they were with Hurricane Michael? So just some pictures from Hurricane Michael. One of our extension agents did a peanut butter drive, and it was really, really successful. Lots and lots of peanut butter. Here's some of the pods and disaster resource centers, DRCs. Some of the assessments, ag assessments we had to do, they ended up having to do with drones because roads were blocked off and just folks couldn't get over to the areas to actually do the assessment. So they were using drones to try to get to those areas. So lesson learned, recovery SOPs included in COOP plans. So one of the things that after Irma, because we couldn't get in touch with folks like we wanted to, and to make sure that everybody was okay following a storm, we developed a COOP plan. And I have to thank all the Eden community and the Eden network, because I put a call out to folks and said, anybody have an example of a COOP plan that I can give to extension offices? And so thank heavens for this network, because people sent me all kinds of stuff that I was able to use to develop COOP plans for extension offices. And one of the things in there was basically a phone tree of how best to get in front of your folks. So we definitely used that after Irma. Then after Michael, understanding recovery, we wanted the standard of operation procedures, especially when our folks are severely impacted like they were. Again, plan for when folks are severely impacted. We also wanted to look at a disaster fund and possibly stockpiling supplies throughout the year. That was something that, well, we need such and such for this building. Well, which account are we going to pull it? So it became kind of a question of, well, we have a disaster account, but that's gone now. So, but they need this. And so it became a bit of a stressful situation sometimes. And we're trying to work with partners in Blue Skies to determine some of the best management practices. This is definitely something after Irma that we learned pretty quickly. Develop alternatives to online tools. I'll go into that in a minute. And then daily reports formalized, incident action plans, daily situation reports that we can share with the UF disaster group on campus, but also share with the state emergency management folks as well. So actions sort of, some of these best management, or sorry, some of these lessons learned have kind of turned into some best management practices. We did develop the continuation of operation plan at the state, district, and county levels. We just developed the mental health first aid trainings throughout the state for the extension faculty and public, development and updating of tools for the extension faculty and staff, research to how best to determine how best help the extension faculty and staff and communities, and we're continuing to do that as well. Develop of reporting assessments and best management practices, and then really trying to collaborate with state and county emergency management and other community partners, again, before disasters happen. So we were actually able to test some of these new practices that we had learned from Irma and Michael. Hurricane Dorian became a hurricane on August 28, 2019. By September 1st, it was a Category 5. It was forecasted, if you remember, it was forecasted to make a direct hit to the eastern coast of Florida. It was expected to surpass Hurricane Irma to become the most powerful hurricane on record in the open Atlantic region. So we were preparing for a massive hurricane. So you can see there. So we put the regular and some of our new tactics into practice. We updated some of our communication plans. We definitely upped the assessments and how we were going to do some of the assessments following the storm, and then working with some of our partners in some of those formalized ways as well. So first thing is addressing some of the communication issues that came up during Irma and Michael. And so I have to give a shout out to Alena, because she's the one that came up with all of these beautiful templates that I'm going to show you. So as y'all know, I mean, especially with extensions, turnover can be high sometimes. So even though we had asked everybody to update their COOP plans and update their communication templates just the year before, we asked them to do it again. And so we tried to come up with something that was very easy for them to fill out quickly. A storm is coming. Here is a very quick document. Fill it out. take a picture of it, whatever you need to do so that you're able to get in touch with each other if we're not able to communicate with each other after this storm comes through. Satellite phones was something that we struggled with at first with Hurricane Irma and with Michael. We delivered them a lot of times after the storm. And so they're like, yeah, this has been helpful, you know, the day after the storm passed. And so we were able to deliver those and send those out onto the areas that we were afraid were going to be greatly impacted. The communications, which is IFAS communication services on campus, they utilize social media and share resources beforehand. They were excellent about getting a lot of great information out there. And then again, developing this quick, easy communication template that would be easy for offices to update quickly as they were getting their own offices together as well. So also, I mean, and this is something that we had them fill out COOP plans. And one of the feedback that we got was, it's too long. Is there something that we can fill out super quickly? So again, I give my hats off and give all the credit to Alena, who took pretty much probably about a 6 or 7 page document and turned it into a 1 page, if you put it front and back, a 1 page kind of COOP template that folks could fill out. And so it's super easy. You can kind of see who the employees are, phone number, email, the leadership succession, and then each of the essential functions of the different program areas at the different offices. Now, not every office has every program area, but we included it. And there's a way that they can delete things off of this. So the power's in their hand. It's a Word document. The power's in their hand to create this how they need it to be, basically. The pre-event, pre, during, post, those 8 things, those are pretty much the same on everybody's. And again, they're able to change these. We said, y'all can change these as how you need to. And then any of those key internal dependencies, the folks that they relied on for different things, the IT folks, we put our P card people on there, the fiscal people, because we always seem to need them. Excuse me. And then also the district extension director for that particular area, some external dependencies, and then any external partners that they had as well. So again, this is, sorry, gosh. So this is, again, something that they could update as they needed to, but we were just, sorry, I'm frog in my throat. Sorry, better. But we were able to supply the basics, the foundation for them to actually update as they needed to, because every county is different. We found that, and I know y'all probably feel the same way. Every county is different, and they all have different needs and different ways of doing things. So giving them the ability to change up and to do what they need to do and to put the things in there was really helpful. Oops, sorry, I went too far. So this, I don't know how many of y'all use Microsoft Teams. I'm not sure. So we have 2 fantastic, and his pictures on here, actually both of them are on here. So Dwayne and Joe Gasper, Dwayne Hyatt and Joe Gasper are they are at IT within IFAS, and they are team gurus. And after Hurricane Michael, Dwayne called me and asked for a meeting with me. And he said, I really think that you can manage a lot of the storm and the communication and everything through Teams. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So he brought me in, and he and Joe provided me with this about an hour presentation of what Teams is. And then we ended up spending 2 more hours together talking about how this could benefit working storms and working, getting ready for storms and response and recovery from storms as well. So Dorian was our first chance to actually use a Teams. And so it was one way that also that they were talking about communications to get rid of kind of the group me. The group me, I think, is still going to kind of come up just because I think people are used to it. But this provides them a way to have a general place where everything is. We can share files, we can share websites. You can see there on the left that we broke it up based on counties as well as meetings. And so everything has been all right there together. I will tell you one thing that I have loved about it is when there's another storm coming, I can pull in the files that we use. In fact, when we were getting ready for Isaias, I said to Alena, where are the files that we used for Dorian? Can we pull those over to this team? And it was easy. it was something that we could pull over really quickly, and it was all right there together. So it was really nice. I think some folks within IFAS have a love-hate relationship with Teams. So, so we kind of got it where if you want to join, you can. Here's the link to join, but it's not necessarily that you have to. And then they can unjoin, or they can not join, and they can leave the team anytime they want to as well. So this was Dorian was our first time with teams and working on a disaster. And so the other thing with Dorian is really taking the assessment survey. And I have to brag on Dr. Christa D. I'm sorry she couldn't be here with us today, but she is writing a grant. But she's a rock star. She works in our food resources economics. She's an economist, and she's basically in charge of the agricultural damages and losses post-disaster. So she developed a assessment tool on Qualtrics. She's actually worked with our IT at IFAS to develop an app as well. And we used the app after Michael. And then we realized, oh, wait, all the cell towers are down. So all of a sudden, a lot of the folks that were coming to help other people, they had to go and print out this assessment form to go and do the assessments for Hurricane Michael, because all the cell towers were down. So this time around, we took a lot of that into consideration. Christa did a great job. She developed one that was available on Teams, and then she also provided one that I think was in Word as well, so folks could print out before the storm was coming, so they could have copies if we were to have cell towers go down as well. She put together a webinar super quickly. I think 2 days before the storm was supposed to impact us, she did a webinar on the training agents and staff and faculty on how to use the app. And the training was also shared with partners outside of IFAS and in other states as well. And again, she provided those Word documents that we were able to print out ahead of time. And another thing that we were able to do preemptive this time around was, after Hurricane Michael, we reached out to the areas that were not impacted by Hurricane Michael and the other parts of the state, and asked if there were folks, if there were faculty and staff that'd be willing to come to the Panhandle to do some assessments, because so many of our people were independently impacted, were personally impacted. We didn't want to ask folks to, hey, go out and do assessments when you literally just lost your home. So very lucky, we have a great family, and several people came over to the Panhandle to do just that, to do assessments for other folks. So going into Hurricane Dorian, that's something we put out ahead of time, of what is the list of folks that would be willing to travel to do assessments to the areas that were more heavily impacted. So we had a list of those folks ahead of time, which was really beneficial, because after Hurricane Michael, we didn't have cell service and it was hard getting in touch with folks. So this was really great having the information ahead of time as well. So partner communications, again, this is one of Alena's creations, and working with the Florida Department of Agriculture, and I was providing notes to them on a daily basis. You know, here are the notes that we've taken, here are the needs, here's what's going on. And I was doing this after Irma and after Michael. And one of the folks that I work with at the State Emergency Management said, y'all should do an actual situation report, just put it into a document. And so Alena created this. And so going into Dorian, we actually started using this, and we provided it to not only our state partners, but other partners that we work closely with, regulatory agencies, et cetera, just to give them, again, the current situation, the current operations, any unmet needs, and future operations as well. So this was really beneficial for our partners, and also the disaster management group at the University of Florida as well. They really appreciated having this also. So ultimately, excuse me, Dorian's impacts to Florida were minimal. You can see that it was a good bit off of the coast of Florida. So our impacts were minimal, and it quickly became known as the Dorian drill. However, our friends in the Bahamas, as we know, and the Carolinas were not as lucky as we were, but it definitely became, like I said, it became very quickly for us as the Dorian drill. And it was an experience, and it was a chance for us to learn. I asked the extension leadership if we could do a hot wash. I got some side-eye glances from some folks of, why do we need to do a hot wash? It didn't impact us. And You know, I actually said this, each experience is a chance for us to learn. I'm sure they rolled their eyes, but given the fact that we brought in so many different tools this time around for Dorian, I really wanted to have a chance to sit down with folks and talk about what they thought worked and what they didn't think worked as well. So again, it became known as the Dorian drill. What went well? The communication presence, really getting that presence out before the storm, as well as having the communications up and ready to go for the individual offices, but also trying to keep that communication going with the teams as well. They were really happy with that. The response from agents and faculty out within the state was really, really positive. That folks felt like they were involved in what was going on, and I think they felt like they were ready. Faster communication seemed faster. Again, I think a lot of this was because of teams, because we were able to get it out there quickly, and a lot of folks joined the teams, the Dorian teams, one pretty quickly. Engagement with Dr. Court for those assessments, Christa doing that webinar and being able to answer questions of what happens and what needs to happen was really helpful as well. We also really kind of started a partnership with our vet school as well. And so we included them on our 8 a.m. leadership meetings. We also made sure that asked if they had any needs or anything that we could help with as well. And the extension leadership really appreciated bringing in the vet school, and so that we could understand what their needs were and what we could help with, and vice versa. So that was, we still have had a couple of 8 a.m. calls with COVID as well as with IFAS, and the vet school is still a part of those. So that's been something that has stayed. Again, like I said, teams is kind of a love-hate relationship. And so when you ask what needs work, several of them were like teams. But again, I feel like that was the first time we've used it. We have used it since then. We've used it with COVID, actually. And I think that we've learned a lot more with using teams, and we're able to use it a little more effectively and efficiently than we have the first time. Incorporating the COOP plans more, and that's something that Alena and I are trying to work on, of how to make this as easy as possible for extension offices to maintain these COOP plans throughout the year. Master list, that is a database that can be quickly accessed. I'm happy to report that that happened. So we were able to get a master list that's actually on our website, that we are able to go and type in who works in the EOCs in their county, and there's a list that comes up. Now, updating that list is something that we need to do more regularly, but that is something that we were able to put on a website, and we could access it very quickly. Hotspots and satellite phones that are incorporated into our drills, that's something that we needed to see about getting stuff out to folks quicker than we had. SOP for collection of donations. Like I said, our friends in the Bahamas and the Carolinas weren't as lucky as we were as far as Hurricane Dorian. And so many in our organization wanted to help those. And so we were trying to work most effectively and efficiently and collecting donations for those that were impacted by Hurricane Dorian. And lastly, including some of these in the IFAS procedures and protocols that were already established as well. So that's all. And I feel like I went through that pretty quickly, but I know that there's some questions on here. So definitely wanted to leave some time for questions as well. Oh, okay, great. Oh, Ashley, you've been using Teams. Okay, how's it been going for y'all?
I love it. It's a great way to cut down on email as well. So for those folks not using Teams and you're looking to declutter the inbox, I like it because you can communicate on a certain topic without this inbox, where usually our state partners are connecting with me that way. So it's nice to have that separation.
Yeah, and I agree. I think a lot of people like it because you can go check it and it's not right there in your email like everything else. So I think that's a good point. Great. Gregory, did IFAS allow outside access by state emergency officials to team situation reports? What did you use for primary communication, cell or landlines or satellite phones? Okay, so I'll answer the first one. Do you mean like the state emergency to like our situation reports and our notes and things like that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because you're writing all these reports and things and you're keeping it within Teams. Teams allows you to have outside people be guest participants within certain areas.
Absolutely.
Or at least on the backside, they have SharePoint to where they can go and look at it almost like a Dropbox situation where they can pick and choose off of files with their access. So a lot of functionality there for that. I didn't know if did you guys go that far?
We did. And we, one reason we did is FAMU, which is the 1890, and Kimberly Davis, who works really closely with me in Florida, she would have been outside of our network. And so I added several of them over as well. As far as like the Department of Ag and Consumer Services, I didn't really add them to Teams, but we emailed stuff to them directly. So that worked out okay, but we absolutely would add outside people onto the Teams, and we did add folks on there, absolutely.
Because if you should drop off, that would be a backup for them to at least access it if somebody else was adding to it. The other thing I liked about Teams too is that you have shared documents, and so you only have one version that sits up in the cloud.
Yep.
And it's not bouncing around.
Yeah, and in fact, with the Pi Center, we have been using that to put together like presentations, and it's been really helpful. So, absolutely. Lynette asks, can you share more about the use of satellite phones and hotspots? Do the phones work well for you? And I'm assuming the hotspots went to the areas where you thought the loose cell tower. Sorry for no, don't apologize for misspelling or typos. So, what we found after Michael with the use of satellite phones is they could text with them. They couldn't really call us with them, but they could text us. So that was at least something that we could do. So we have invested in a couple of more satellite phones that are supposed to be a little bit more up to date. Some of those were probably a good several years old, but they could text us with those. And then hopefully the new ones are going to be able to call us as well. The hotspots were something that we purchased after Irma. We had some hotspots on campus, and then after Hurricane Irma, especially Collier County, where the storm came in the second time, they didn't have cell service at all, and Wi-Fi was not going to happen for several weeks, obviously. And we got the hotspots down to them as quickly as possible. I believe now that every extension office, Charlie and Libby, y'all might have to chime in here. I believe each extension office has some hotspots now for, I know it was discussed. I don't know if it happened, but I know that it was something that has been discussed about each office having some hotspots readily available. Bo, are you doing anything to help assess the impact of COVID on communities in terms of jobs, local government, fiscal health, etc.? Oh, Kimberly, go ahead. Thank you, Kimberly. I didn't know you were on here. Please.
Oh, no, what I was going to say, when Noel Esther mentioned during the business meeting when he gave the 1890 update, it is helpful. We've kind of already engaged with our by using the hotspots and also by engaging with Florida. We go ahead with the 1862 partnership. So like when Christa does the survey training, then we participate because since we monitor the small farms, so that means that we're getting the data for the small farms. So that partnership is really working with Florida A&M and IFAS. So if you're in a state where there is a 1890, then some of the things that Dr. Lindsey is talking about is helpful because like we make sure that we're taking into consideration the underrepresented populations.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks. Bo, to answer your question, yes. So Dr. Christa Court, again, rock star that she is, has a survey out now. Actually, I think she's working, I think this is the second, she put it out one time. Is she on the second, Kimberly? Yes, okay. Second time. Now she's more assessing the agricultural, natural resources, and the fisheries. But they're also doing some qualitative interviews as part of that as well that should get some of the communities in terms of jobs, local government, fiscal health. But many of the questions that she asked as part of the ag, fisheries, and natural resources will probably also get to that as also. So, Bo, I can actually, if you remind me and send me an email or a text, I can send you to her website where it shows some of her preliminary results. Any other questions?
So what was your role? Were you the primary assessors or were you supplementary to the departmental officials?
So the department has their own assessors as well, but they also take extensions assessments as well. So we were a, I don't want to say we were a secondary, but but we were one of them. We were one of the several that was out there doing assessments, and we are each time also.
Yeah, I find us that we are supportive, and we're the resource knowledge base for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Krista's really trying to get some of them to adopt her survey and and go to one one data source basically, but I don't know if her plan's going to come through anytime soon.
Well, here's the other dilemma too, is that in our county we've gone to web EOC, which means all the ICS documents are now electronic, and so your forms may not match against their ICS forms, and that might be something to look into as well, depending on which county you're operating in.
She developed the forms looking at those ICS forms. So, so yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet where we are filling out stuff through web EOC, but that's baby steps basically. So,
right. Right. One of the nice things about web EOC is that you can do it remotely too. So you could be in the county EOC sitting at home or in a safe spot.
Yeah, and I know several of them were doing that after Hurricane Sally too.
Because sometimes the county will pick a spot that's the worst place to put an EOC, and that's where they're working. And I've seen some actually have to evacuate their primary and go to a secondary location.
Yeah. Good point. Any other questions? Well, thank y'all very much. Lisa, I'll mute myself now and let you take back over.
Okay. The only thing two things, the evaluation is in the chat window, so please fill out the evaluation for this session. There are places in that evaluation you can ask extra questions, and those will get to Angie, and she can respond to those as well. The other thing is I want to make sure that I welcome you all to join the virtual reception that should start here in about 8 minutes. Grab yourself a beverage of choice and maybe a snack or two, and come back and join us. We had a great time last night with the first timers reception, got to meet lots of great people. So if you can at all join us for even just a little bit, that would be fantastic, because we had a great time last night. So thank you everyone, and hope to see you in a little bit.